welcome everyone to 284 News. My name is Javon Wilson.
I'm Kamal Haynes.
And I'm Ron Grant.
And we are so thrilled and happy to be coming to you live out of the beautiful British Virgin Islands. The content continues via our website, 284media.com.
In today's news, Disparity in decision to allow Speaker Willock to pay a legal bill as private citizen, while the governor's upcoming COI hearing will be paid by taxpayers in his capacity, says Premier Andrew Fahie.
We also see a majority of the teachers' $300 stipend checks already printed and ready for distribution.
And the BVI-USVI vaccination bubble initiative recommences and will be operating only on Wednesdays.
We also see prison escapee Mr. Sebastian being recaptured just yesterday, and Premier Fahie lobbying for equal pay among elected House of Assembly members, which would raise the salaries for all backbenchers as well. We have all the details for these stories and so much more on today's edition of 284 News.
You value traditions. You value music. You value education. Family.
I love you.
Service.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Love. Life. At Popular, we're committed to you and everything our community values. For the things you value the most, count on us. Popular.
Welcome everyone. It's Tuesday, November 2nd, 2021. I'm Kamal Haynes.
And my name is Javon Wilson. A terrific Tuesday it is, and we are coming to you live from the beautiful British Virgin Islands with today's edition of 284 News. Now, viewers, at the top of our headlines today, officers of the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force recaptured escapee Jermaine Sebastian last evening in the Vanderpool Estate area. Now, viewers, the escapee, identified as BVI lander Jermaine Sebastian, was sentenced to life imprisonment and was subject to be reviewed after 25 years for a manslaughter conviction back in 2006. Prison officials stated that Sebastian made his escape as he was leaving the prison farm and re-entering the main entrance ground around 11 a.m. on Saturday. He was seen running in the direction of Hawk's Nest. We're very happy to hear that he was recaptured, Kamal, especially since it caused much concern and a frenzy really in the community because this man was really, he's serving a hefty crime, time for a hefty crime at Balsam Scud. We also see a booster shot coming for the BVI. This was announced in a WhatsApp blast message from the Minister of Health, Honorable Carvin Malone, and he's saying once the equipment arrives for the Pfizer vaccine, and that would be the storage equipment, a booster shot is expected next for residents in the territory.
And viewers, moving on, where we see Premier Andrew Fahie stating that there is a disparity in the decision to have Speaker of the House of Assembly, Julian Willock, subjected to pay his legal bill as a private citizen, when the governor, who will be represented by a legal team in an upcoming Commission of Inquiry hearing, will have his bill footed by taxpayers. Premier Fahie made that statement during Monday's proceedings of the House of Assembly as he briefly touched on a motion which aims to exempt Speaker of the House Julian Willock from having to pay in excess of $120,000 in legal fees following his discontinued injunction against the three COI attorneys. But the Premier, in essence, was justifying why the government is moving forward with the motion.
This motion that would have been number 9 is not about an individual but about the official office. It is important for everyone to know that the BVI taxpayers are paying for the legal fees for the legal representation of the COI lawyers due to claims of possible violation of the Legal Professions Act 2015. Also, it is important for everyone to know that the governor has exercised his democratic right to have legal representation during the time when he will be cross-examined in the COI, which is the same COI that the governor's office called. And it is also projected, Mr. Speaker, that the BVI taxpayers may be paying this expense as well.
Our Premier Fahie also hinted that more documents will be forthcoming to shed further light on the matter, which has so far sparked public outrage for many members of the BVI public.
Because I've been informed that Section 103 of the Constitution will likely be used for those two expenses that I've named. The only one is being ordered to pay legal fees in his private capacity while taking action in his official capacity would have been the Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I just needed to state that these information that has recently come to the attention of the Minister of Finance, and there are some documents that I would like to request. So before I speak any further on them.
Well, viewers, the Premier's decision to introduce this motion, which will be using the funds from the Consolidated Fund to pay the Speaker's legal bill, ultimately means that taxpayers will be paying this cost. Well, following the breaking of this news from our media house, several persons took to social media to express their dissatisfaction with the decision of the government to take such a stance. Well, it resulted in the creation of a petition by Lawrence Bunchy Wheatley, which has so far amassed 1,286 signatures, passing the intended 1,200 goal mark, and a protest which also saw several persons outside the House of Assembly yesterday, Monday. While Speaker Willock was originally ordered by the Eastern Supreme High Court to pay the legal fees of the defendants in his discontinued injunction case, which was filed against the Commissioner of Inquiry and his 3 attorneys. Well, this judgment was handed down by Justice Adrian Jack on Thursday, September 30th, where it was revealed that Speaker Willock could pay more than $120,000 once an assessment of the total fees were conducted. But the legal fees submitted by the Attorney General totaled $6,084, while the bill for the Commissioner, Sir Gary Hickenbottom, along with his attorneys Bilal Rurat, Rhea Harrickson, and Andrew King, totaled $115,348.50. Well, Javon, I did listen to the Premier's comments yesterday during the House of Assembly when he made a comment, and it raised a number of questions because based on the argument that he's putting forth in comparing the governor's stance to have an attorney represent him in the upcoming COI hearing, and then you're comparing that with that of what took place with the Speaker of the House of Assembly, they're just, as the opposition leader said, is apples and oranges basically in terms of comparisons, because the reality is, in my opinion, what we would have seen the Speaker having, he did have an attorney at the COI hearings, which was paid by the taxpayers. It was not an issue when it comes to that. But the matter at hand and where the persons are upset about is the one that was taken to court. The governor did not take anyone to court, and that is not an issue regarding the governor's representation coming to the COI when he have his hearing, whether it be this week or next week. So I don't understand the comparison that the Premier is trying to make regarding justifying why basically why they should go forward with that motion.
Again, it doubles back to, in my opinion, not following, going through due diligence. So not even going to court was the issue, because the fact remains that these 3 lawyers who are here to represent the COI violated the constitutional protocols of this territory. So we have to take that into consideration. What the Speaker did not do is follow the protocols. So he should have consulted with the Attorney General clearly, and that's what violated the process. But I think ultimately, Kamal, we are in a season, in a climate in the BVI, where persons are not just sitting back and accepting opinions anymore and decisions from legislators, especially if it doesn't sit well with the populace. What I'm really happy to see is democracy is alive and well. And just like we stand up to hold persons accountable for various other issues, I'm really happy and I'm hoping that the people can continue to hold legislators accountable for their actions, because this is the only way we can begin to fill some of those gaps and loopholes that we have in the system.
Well, on your point regarding whether the procedures were followed by the Speaker, the reality is he initially would have been deterred from the Attorney General, who basically would have told him not to pursue that particular matter. So he defied the orders of the Attorney General. It was not a situation where he probably sought access
bypassed
and then bypassed. He sought and he was denied, and then he still went forward with it.
Right.
So that's and as a matter of fact, and then when you go to court, then obviously having to pay for those proceedings, that's where that money really amounted to. Hence why she herself would have had to submit the $6,048 bill on her behalf in terms of her part in the matter of the case.
Right.
So for me, it's just a situation where you would have been advised and you went against the advice basically and still proceeded with your route.
Right.
So at the end of the day, that's why even when I read through that of the judgment from the Justice Jack, it basically would have said, you discontinued the case in the first instance, without trying. The first hurdle you ran into, you basically discontinued, and then there were several other variables that basically ruled the Speaker out, according to the Justice Jack, from his capacity as Speaker to the private citizen, because in doing that particular act, he basically wasn't acting in the interest of the people.
Right.
It was more so of an act in his
personal.
a personal act, therefore. So I could understand the judgment, and I do understand your point, because a lot of persons believe that may be the case, but I'm just going off the facts I would have read according to the judgment from Justice Jack, and according to what he would have said, the rules of in terms of the contracts that were signed regarding the representation of the attorneys, how that would have been handled, and what the government was at fault for in terms of paying when it comes to the COA attorneys. So in breaking down that whole contract, he was basically stating that, it was certain things that were supposed to be covered under this contract and others that wasn't supposed to be covered under the contract between the government and Willock as the Speaker of the House of Assembly.
Exactly. And viewers, you could never say there is a shortage of facts here at 284 Media. Again, this is what we're here to do, present you with that information. And of course, you, the public, now have the power to hold legislators accountable. Now, as we move forward, the $300 stipend for teachers requested by the BVI's Teachers Union is now ready for distribution, with a majority of checks now printed. This was announced by the Minister of Education, Dr. the Honorable Natalio D. Wheatley, on October 31st, who stated that the stipend was among one of the 5 written requests made by the union in support of teachers. The union president, that is Ms. Tammy Henry, within that statement wrote, and I quote, "This payment is both symbolic and practical. It will serve as an acknowledgement of the extraordinary effort of our teachers during this ongoing pandemic, and it will repay a small portion of the monies that teachers spent to ready themselves to teach during the past school year." End of quote. Now, viewers, in response to that, this is what the minister had to say.
In agreement with this symbolic and practical payment from the Teachers Union, we budgeted the funds in the adjustment budget passed in September, and the ministry processed the vouchers, and 75% of checks were printed this past week and are now ready for distribution. The rest will follow closely after.
Now, viewers, in addition to that, 2 past due increments for teachers were also recently approved within the adjustment budget, and Minister Wheatley also noted that he is a strong advocate for increased compensation for teachers. Now, viewers, both initiatives were proposed by the Teachers Union in conversation with the ministry.
The second request of the Teachers Union was for the payment of 2 past due increments, and the third request was for active participation in the salary review process. I'm pleased to report that the 2017 increments were passed in the recent adjustment budget and are presently being processed by Human Resources. Also, Director of HR, Michelle Donovan Stevens, in a statement released on September 9, 2021, confirmed the full involvement of the Teachers Union, among other stakeholders, in this Cabinet Commission salary review, which is the first review in 19 years.
Now, while some progress was made on the request of the Teachers Union, the minister said that he is aware that there is a multiplicity of other concerns that affect teachers, which led to the sick-out we saw last week, even into this week. Now, following the silent strike, Minister Wheatley revealed that he consulted with educators to try and come to a resolve.
On Thursday night, I engaged over 100 teachers in dialogue to ascertain the specific challenges that frustrated teachers to the point of making this public statement. These included concerns about salary, the condition of the workplace, management, and human resources related concerns, among others. Let me affirm, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that our teachers have undisputably valid concerns that must be addressed. Therefore, I would never feel offended when anyone says they stand with teachers. I too stand with teachers. We all should stand with teachers.
Within the minister's extended update, he also challenged all elected members in the House of Assembly to support the allocation of $2 million in the upcoming budget for a complete overhaul of the schools. He said this will make sure that every single school has the money that is required to provide a safe and healthy learning environment for all students. Kamal, again, another perfect example of what, when you sow a seed, you stand to reap the fruits of that. And we have to continue to applaud the teachers for standing up for themselves. For far too long, education has been neglected, and this is through successive governments. It was never prioritized. So I'm really happy to see teachers taking a stance and getting some deliverables, and hoping that we can continue to keep some of that momentum and have that very momentum trickle across all the industries, particularly on challenges and issues that we have in areas that we need resolve.
I mean, we have been witnessing all of this unfold over the last couple of weeks into more than a month and going. I do understand, obviously, the minister is under a lot of pressure. He would have came in and met some of these problems. I'm sure he had the best interest of the people and the educators and the children at heart, but people got to understand as well, too, there are a lot of procedures ministers have to go through in terms of getting funds approved and stuff. But we also do understand the plight of the teachers and the issues they're going through, and a lot of things, especially when this announcement was made regarding the 75% of the printing and stuff approved for the $300 stipend. A lot of persons were questioning, well, we thought this was already approved,
right?
And
a lot of persons thought it was done
early
already.
October when it was announced. So it goes to show, even though something may be announced, it don't necessarily mean that it's 100% will happen immediately. And I guess that's where another breakdown have occurred, because I guess the teachers once hearing this announcement, especially when it was announced in the month of October, persons were assuming, okay, well, we would get this money now so that we could go and spend and then use all the
exactly
the stuff that they would have gotten then. But no, we obviously know that that's not the case.
And it really doubles back to, again, a breakdown in communication. Because yes, we did announce that, this stipend is coming, but, keeping the communication going and keeping that line of communication open, especially in such a tense atmosphere, is absolutely critical. So yes, there is a lot happening in the background, a lot of meetings happening that, the public may not be privy to. But like you said, everything has to go through a process when it comes to these things.
Bureaucratic process, that is, yes, indeed. Well, viewers, up next, BVI-USVI vaccination bubble initiative recommences and will be operating only on Wednesday. And Honorable Vincent Wheately is away representing the BVI at the Climate Change Conference. We also hear a resounding speech delivered by Barbados' Prime Minister Mottley. We get to these stories when 284 News returns. Well, welcome back, viewers. Well, the BVI-USVI vaccination bubble initiative has been revamped to accommodate the large number of persons still interested in another option besides the AstraZeneca vaccine. Our Minister for Health and Social Development, Honorable Carvin Malone, said, and I quote, "After the initiative closed off, we still had a large number of persons interested in the program." Well, he further stated that government continues to work with the USVI to get persons vaccinated, especially eligible children who are not able to be vaccinated using the AstraZeneca vaccine that is available in the BVI. Well, he said, and I quote, "But this is yet another opportunity for families to get access to the life-saving COVID-19 vaccination. Or through this collaboration with the USVI, persons will have access to the Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson vaccines," end quote. But Minister Malone noted, however, that the dynamics of the initiative has changed and persons will now be responsible for the transportation, whether it will be in a private vessel or using a water taxi. Well, in addition, according to the USVI authorities, vaccination will only be done on Wednesdays between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. While the minister said, and again, I quote, "We are still relaxing protocols for persons who follow the rules and remain in the bubble of the initiative of failure to comply with the results in quarantine according to the usual protocols," end quote. Well, in line with the new registration processes, interested persons are being asked to do the following. For the first, visit the Ministry of Health and Social Development's website at www.bvi.gov.vg and complete the BVI-USVI vaccination bubble registration form. Persons are also asked to email the form to the Ministry of Health at gov.vg along with the necessary supporting documents for processing. Applicants must have a valid passport and immigration requirements to enter the USVI. Applicants must be able to fund all costs associated with getting the vaccine, including transportation and logistical costs. Register with the USVI Department of Health by visiting www.covid19usvi.com/vaccines to secure an appointment. Supporting documents should also include proof of a confirmed appointment with the USVI Department of Health, and register with the USVI travel portal for approval to enter Cruise Bay, St. John by visiting https://www.usvitravelportal.com. And finally, persons should also have a rapid COVID-19 test, which must be administered 1 day before the travel to the St. John and uploaded to the portal. And also, persons should have an application must be submitted. Their application must be submitted for each person traveling to St. John. And travelers must also present a green QR code to government officials on arrival in St. John, evidencing approval of the entry into the USVI. For more information, persons are asked to contact 852-7525 on Mondays to Fridays from 12 noon to 3 p.m. Well, Javon, this is some good news for those persons who, were adamant that they do not want to have the AstraZeneca version of the vaccine, and they're presented with this opportunity again. Yes, the deal is not as sweet as the previous deal. They now have to incorporate more expenses, but I guess it's a decision that they will ultimately have to make in the interest of what they're looking for.
I think as we continue to examine the fluidity and the, how complex this COVID-19 pandemic is and the newness of it as well, providing alternative options is important, especially since in many countries, including the BVI, it's still not a mandatory, it's still not a mandate. So it's important that persons feel comfortable with the choices that they're making, especially for, in countries like this, it goes against a constitutional right? So I'm happy to see the option still on the table. Also, the Minister of Health did announce, like we mentioned earlier in the newscast, that soon enough the BVI will have its own access to the Pfizer vaccine, being that they're in the process of procuring the equipment that is necessary to store those vaccines. So again, providing the alternatives is important, especially for persons who may still be uncomfortable, persons who are still on the fence. And as also with the USVI, just yesterday, us finding out that from November 8th, persons will not be able to enter the USVI via boat or plane without that valid COVID-19 vaccine that is now protocol for U.S. territories. So I think it's important that we continue to provide these options.
Indeed.
Viewers, we're going to go to a quick commercial break, but when we come back, there's so much more. Stick with us.
The wait is over. CCT Fire is here. Experience ultra-fast downloads, seamless streaming, and even more reliable connectivity on an all-new fire-blazing super-fast CCT Fiber network. CCT Fire. Bring it home and upgrade today.
Is business slow, cash flow down, hosting an upcoming event? We can help. Advertise with 284 Media and take your business or event to the next level by enhancing your present marketing and messaging strategies. Allow our team of experts to create a personalized ad that sets your business apart from all the rest. This could be your business or event. So, what are you waiting for? Contact our marketing team at 284media@cctbvi.com. Advertising with us works.
Viewers, welcome back to 284 News. Now, the Minister for Natural Resources, Labor and Immigration, Honorable Vincent Wheately, is away from the territory attending the 2021 United Nations Climate Change Conference, COP26 in Glasgow, from October 31st to November 12th. Now, viewers, Honorable Wheately will form part of the official UK Overseas Territory Association delegation attending the conference. The COP26 summit will bring parties together to accelerate action towards the goals of Paris Agreement and the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change. The minister, while commenting on the event, stated, and I quote, "Participation at the conference is an important move for the territories, and small island states such as ours will bear the brunt of the impacts of climate change. Overseas territories will advocate for greater technical and financial assistance from the international community to adapt and mitigate the impacts." End of quote. Now, viewers, 6 officials from Anguilla, the British Virgin Islands, Bermuda, Cayman, Gibraltar, and Turks and Caicos Islands, who make up the overseas delegation, will host an event at COP26 on nature and land use on November 6th. The event will explore how the UK overseas territories are taking action to counter and mitigate the effects of global warming and how they are safeguarding precious marine environments. In the almost 30 years that the UN has been bringing together countries for the global climate summits, as climate change has gone from being a fringe issue to a global priority. The goals of COP26 are to secure global net zero by mid-century and keep 1.5 degrees within reach, adapt to protect communities and natural habits, mobilize finance, and work together to deliver. Now, Kamal, so many of our representatives, of course, Honorable Vincent Wheatly is representing these Virgin Islands, but also great representation from the region. I don't know if you had a chance, I know you, of course, Bayesian. I don't know if you had a chance to look at Mia Mottley's speech, but I do know she's been receiving a lot of positive attention based on what she delivered yesterday. And also, just right next to her, great representations from places like Canada who really capitalize and who are very clear about their agenda to affect climate change positively.
Indeed, I did. I watched the clip this morning where she was basically speaking on the need for those more powerful countries to man up and deliver on their promise.
Yes.
Because what she was stating basically is the promise that they would have given to the developing countries in terms of the allocations of these funds. They would have held back from that.
Yes.
And as a result, you know, these countries that need these funds to help with the climate change are, as a result, suffering.
Yes.
And you know that obviously significantly on a negative realm continues basically to affect climate change. And she was basically speaking out for persons, for those entities who, based on what I heard from her speech, were not present. A lot of them were not present at the ceremony, and she was basically calling out them for their actions and basically asking them, you know, to deliver on your promise so that we as small developing island states could basically continue in our route to try to help with the climate change. Because the reality is climate change, while it may affect the global world in its entirety, it heavily impacts us as small island developing states, especially in this region,
yes,
where we are subject to a lot of disasters. As obviously we don't have to look too far back to 2017
right,
with the hurricanes, and we obviously are a small region with little resources, and these monies can go a long way in terms of helping us on that path of helping with climate change.
Absolutely, and I like that you mentioned that, because essentially what she was representing, yes, is the fact that we are part of the pie, but as a whole, we'll all be affected by what's happening with climate change. And also the same sentiments being echoed by our very own representative, Honorable Vincent Wheatly. We need those funds, and he's saying we are there to rally for it. So on November 6th, we are looking forward to great representation from Honorable Wheatly, and of course all the representing members from the British Overseas Territories as well. Viewers, that is all the time we have for today's newscast, but as per usual, we encourage you to join our website or join us via our website. That is 284media.com. We're also on Facebook at 284media and Instagram and Twitter at 284BVI. My name is Javon Wilson.
And I'm Kamal Hayes. Viewers, have a good Tuesday.
Bye-bye.